I'd like to welcome all of you members of the SignBiz Network for our webinar today featuring control in our products. We really just wanted to give you a real world in your business, and there's no one better to do that than a fellow future and kind of where he hopes to take everything. So again, I have muted you on the audio just because it helps with feedback so we can really focus and hear Justin when he's talking. And then at the end of the session, I'll open it up for Q&A, and please feel free if you've got any questions or concerns or want something clarified, by all means go for it. I'll unmute you all and we'll have free reign. So Justin, I'd like to welcome you here to our webinar, and he shared with me briefly some of the things that he wants to highlight, and I know that he wants to spend some time talking about how, you know, when he's got repeat orders, it's really easy to go and do and clone them. Work orders are automatically generated from the estimate he's created, so there's eliminating a lot of guesswork in production. He's going to talk a little bit about the dashboards that he's set up for production to kind of track jobs, and then ultimately the reports that he can pull that really give a concrete, full view of what's going on in the business, where his sales were, and then finally being able to send those invoices directly out of control straight to his customers so he can kind of guarantee some quicker payment. So with that, Justin, I'd like to turn it over to you and just kind of share your experience with control and what you're excited to do with it.
Yeah, all right. Well, I appreciate it. Well, yeah, so I guess we'll start with we have been a control user now, I guess, for right at a year. We purchased it end of 2011, and it took us a few months to make the switch from activity into serious control. It was, and part of that is my fault. You know, one of the main choices you need to make when you make the switch over is to, like, you know, the type of pricing you're going to be doing. And, you know, previously in activity we were using all area-based pricing. And when we switched to control, you know, you have the option of cost-based pricing or area-based. And we made the mistake of trying to switch to cost-based pricing as well as trying to switch over systems completely. And so I'm not going to get into that too much, but I would just, you know, basically tell you that if you're looking to make the switch, don't also do a wholesale switch on your pricing structure, because that bogged us down, and we eventually just went back to the area-based pricing that we were familiar with. And that was actually one of the things that when I was getting set up, you know, that was one of the things that, you know, the folks at Sirius told me was, you know, stick with the pricing structure you've been using. Don't try to switch it. And I thought, well, I can do this, and ended up failing at it miserably. So anyway, long story short, the conversion was actually not too bad once, you know, we went back to the area-based pricing. They were able to import all of my old invoices and estimates into Sirius. They were able to import my customers in. There are, you know, you have limited use though of the old stuff that imports in, but it was very helpful to be able to bring in all my old invoices. That way I can use them for reference as far as what I previously charged a customer. I could look back at old quotes, but really it's easier moving forward once a conversion occurs to create a new invoice rather than to try to use the old ones. But that is something that was really nice, that I was able to at least reference all the old invoices, so that, you know, you don't have to be worried about losing all of your old pricing data, and your customers do import in as well. So, but yeah, some of the things that we found that we really have been really helpful. You know, I'll start with, like she said, the cloning of old orders. So you're able to, you know, take an invoice, easily go in and duplicate it. Once you duplicate it, you can also make changes really simply. You can also take an invoice that you made for one customer and just change the customer name to another customer, and easily converts it over to a you know, a new invoice for a new customer without having to retype in all the data. So that makes, we've got several you know, customers where it's a medical complex, and each time they add a, you know, a new doctor, I'm able to just clone an old invoice from a previous doctor, change the doctor's name, and I don't have to fiddle with pricing or sizes or anything. It's just all there. So that's really sped up my estimating and invoicing. One of the other things, you're able to input all your material costs in, and you can track your material costs in there. And that's something that we haven't, I've got all my material costs in there, but it's not something that I've really been using much yet. But I love the potential that it's got, and so I kind of see us going places with that. But right now I'm not really using that a whole lot in my business, but I know there's certainly a lot of people out there that would, love that kind of data. Let's see, something else that taking credit card payments directly in control. You have the ability to type in someone's credit card information. It stores it securely in the system, and then rather than having to swipe their card on site, you can just click Run Card. That's something that I've already turned all my information in. We haven't switched over to it yet. I literally got an email this morning saying they'd received my paperwork. So I would say within the next couple weeks I'll be live with being able to take credit cards through the system. And we have, I'm sure a lot of people are like us, we have a lot of repeat customers, and having the ability to store a credit card number securely so that I don't have to chase them down and get a number every time I want to run a new invoice is going to be very nice. So that's something we're really looking forward to. Let's see, one of the other main reasons that we made the switch was for production management. Sirius has the ability to create different dashboards, and you can track your jobs through Sirius using these dashboards. And so, again, so much of what I'm going to talk about is potential rather than actual things we're doing right now, but we've already kind of put the wheels in motion to start using a digital production board. We've purchased a large screen TV, and we're going to set a system up out there next to the television so that my production guys move a job from station to station on that computer, and we'll use that big screen TV as a production board so that each salesman can sit on his computer and he can look and see what station any given project is in, and that'll better help us estimate how long a project's going to take to complete. So again, that's one of those things that is coming down our pipeline, but it's not something we're currently doing. But I've already bought the television. I've got the system, the computer system purchased. It's just a matter of making that change in our shop, which is it's going to require some training to the guys, but it's going to be helpful in the long run. Let's see, one of the other main things that's really nice, when Bookkeeper loves the ability for us to email invoices directly out of control. She literally goes in when she's doing our accounts receivable. She goes in. There's a form letter she's already pre-typed out, and she literally clicks print or clicks email and sends it directly out of control. Activity was really buggy about that. We never were able to set Activity up to be able to email out of it, and it's really nice for she doesn't have to PDF an invoice and then find it in the file and then attach it to an email and send it. All she has to do is click a button and send it directly out, which has really sped that process up for her. Let's see, and then the last thing, as far as the quick reports go, when you close out every single day, and that essentially is kind of creating a bookmark that says here's where our sales were for the day. And when you close out, it generates several different reports for you. And the daily financial summary is the one that I really like. It just tells you how many new orders were placed. It tells you how many orders were moved from WIP into either built or sold. And so it's really nice just to be able to see the activity of the day. And it's just one of those things that it's just kind of like this one intentional way of being able to monitor how your sales did and what you have in WIP at the current moment. And there are literally dozens and dozens of different reports that you can run through Sirius. And Activity had from what I remember, I mean it's been over a year ago, but it was a pretty limited number of reports from what I remember. And just for those people that love data, there's all the data that you could ever care for can be generated through the reports that they've got. So, I guess in a nutshell, that's kind of, the quick summary of our experience with it. Dean, do you have anything?
Justin, thanks so much for touching on a number of areas that within your business that Control's been able to help. I'd like to, and Justin, you're welcome to stick around in case folks have questions after Dean's portion. Dean, I'd like to turn it over to you. Dean Sharp is our sales manager here at Sirius, and I've asked him to kind of take us into Control and show you, for example, what it's like to create an estimate and some of the other things that Justin's touched on. I know it always helps to visualize it and see the program itself. So, Dean, I've unmuted you, and I'll change you to presenter if you can take us into Control.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we got you now.
All right. Okay, thank you, Kristen, and Justin. Thanks for the overview. We greatly appreciate that. Yeah, I'll kind of pick up from the beginning where Justin started there. With the activity, Sirius does have a conversion tool. Now, if you're not an activity user, that's okay. We can convert other data or import other data if you want to look at it that way. So if you don't have an existing system out there, generally we'll take customers from a QuickBooks or an accounting system, and we'll import that data, to give you a starting point. So that's don't be concerned if you don't have activity. It's definitely not required. You can start with Sirius with just a general customer listing, and any new orders you get, you can start creating those. Now, one of the things where I want to start is really just kind of show you the estimating screen, and we'll do just one example and kind of focus on it, move on, and come back and answer questions at the end if there are any. And we'll talk about some of the cloning, the dashboards, and the reporting features that Justin mentioned as well. Now, let me jump into a new estimate here. And one of the things you'll notice over to the left is you'll see a handful of product categories. And this is what we call our out-of-the-box system. It comes, loaded with these, predefined products, be it cut vinyl, wide format printing, vehicle wraps, so on down the list. And we'll take a look at one that's called our digital print, our wide format print product. So this is the entry screen that you would use to quote out your customer, assuming you were doing something, wide format, be it a banner, a poster, printing the vinyl, applying it to a rigid substrate, and so forth. And it's really just kind of follow the screen. How many does a customer want? They want 10 pieces. These are single-sided, or they double-sided, or they back-to-back. It's going to be a 24 by 36. We're going to run this on the Roland or the Mamaki or the Muto, depending on what piece of equipment you have. And then we get to our material type. What are we going to print on? Is it a banner media? Is it a vinyl media? Is it paper? So as an example, if I pick vinyl, I'll then get a list of all the vinyl options that I would sell. In this example, let's just use a calendared vinyl. Now, before I go any further, Justin mentioned setting up materials and costing and so forth. All of these drop-down lists that you see specific to the material and the categories are user-definable. You're going to create your own materials, your own categories, your own printers, and so forth. In this case, let's just say we have a calendar vinyl we're going to print to, and then we will need to mount this to a rigid media. So it is dropped down to our material type here, and what is it? Is it a Coro? Is it a foam board? Is it a magnetic? In this case, let's pick a Coro, and then we'll get the list of Coro options. So we'll say it's a 4x8 sheet. We will need to cut this out as well. So we'll cut this, we'll say hand cut in this example, and we'll say it's just a simple cut. Now, what happens is the software comes up with a price of $50.50 per piece. And really what it's doing is it's breaking it out into, hey, it's going to, we're going to sell this at $8.42 a square, 51 each, and then a total. Now, also down below, and this is what Justin was referring to about the material costing, is it'll actually show you what your costs are in producing this item. So it's costing you $3.37 per square, $20 each, $202 for the total project, and you're at roughly a 60% estimated margin on this item. And all that is really doing behind the scenes is really just building a bill of materials list, right? It's saying, okay, you're going to use this much roll media, you're going to use this much rigid media, you're going to use this much ink based on the coverage of the image height and width, and it drives what we call parts, which is really bill of materials. So you'll have your print ink, your print labor, your machine time, the material itself, and you have a cost, and this cost is your cost. What do you pay for that roll of media? What do you pay for those sheets of 4x8 4 mil? Now, jumping back over to the main screen, from an estimating standpoint, is it does factor in material usage, which is your printed area, as well as wastage. So you have your print area at 60 square feet, you have your waste at 11, and it'll do a utilization on your rigid media as well. So you're going to need 3 sheets of material for these 10, 24 by 36 inch prints. So let me click OK. And once we have added this item to the list, we can go and add something else. We can now add a cut vinyl, or we can add a vehicle decal, and you can keep building it out. In this example, I'm just going to pick a company here, and we'll call this Prints, and we can save it as an estimate. Now, once it's saved as an estimate, it is pending. It'll be in a pending state, and the nice thing about this is, hey, we'll just fire this over directly to the customer. So we will now do a preview of this instead of actually doing an email send, but it's a PDF document that's auto-generated from the estimate. It'll have your logo, it'll have your company detail here, as well as the line item and the price of what the customer requested. You can set any deposits required at the bottom so they get a total price here. Now, I'm going to touch on this quickly, but you will see a clone feature here. This is what Justin was referring to. So if another customer walks up and wants something very similar, we can clone this project and assign it to a different company. Or if this particular company, Bank One, reorders the same thing 3 months from now, you can clone it and change anything about it. You can change the quantity, you can change the height, the width, the material that it's being printed to. It's in full edit mode once you do the clone. So that'll speed up the process of just getting new orders and new estimates in the system. Now, once the estimate has been approved, we'll do what we call a convert, and you'll see that option over here to the right. So this estimate will remain pending and remain pending in the system really until one of 2 things happen. Either you're going to win this or you're going to lose it. Now, if you lose it, you can mark it lost, and we can track that analysis. But if you win it, you're going to convert it. And you're really just going to convert it right into an order. Are you sure you want to do that? We're going to tell it yes. Will we like to take a deposit? Justin was referring here, we can actually run credit card transactions right through Sirius. We can store that credit card information within the software as well. It is secure. You don't have to store it. You can type it in. If you have a swiper, you can swipe it. It'll fill in the blanks, and we can process that payment. I'll just cancel out of that for now. And what happens is it converts this project into a WIP, which I think most of you are probably familiar with, right? That's a work in progress. This job needs to be produced. Now you have what you call stations, and this is where Justin is headed with his big screen TV. Stations are user definable. So they're going to be set up and based on your workflow. Now, your workflow is, probably, in design, it's in print, it's in the vinyl, it's in fabrication, it's in finishing, it's in QC. These are examples. Again, you will set up your own workflow, your own stations, but we're going to assign this project as to where it is. And on the big screen that Justin is referring to, which is going to be a digital job tracking system, is you have what we call dashboards. And this is one that I created as an example. And this is an example of the dashboard of the jobs that are in design, the ones that are in printing, the ones that are in finishing, in QC, and the ones that are in the shipping department. They're ready to go. These need to be shipped. And this is all live. It ties back into the program. So if I have this out on the big screen and I'm a designer and I finished with it, I'm then going to change it and say, hey, it now needs to be in the printing department. and I'll just change it. And it'll update it automatically and update the printing dashboard that this job now needs to be printed. And of course, all of these are driven by the due date of where the project is. And it is real time. So as things are updated from the production floor, if a salesperson uses the system and looks at their customers or their list of orders, they'll see where the job is. They can also see the entire dashboard to know what's going on in production. Does this day look pretty full? Do we need to push this particular project out, the delivery time, a day or so later? So that's the dashboard. Once it's finished with production, it'll run its natural course, and then it'll generally move into a sales state. Now, once it's a sale, and let's say we ship this project, you're officially turning this into an invoice. And Justin mentioned, we can come in the system, we can explore a list of all the open invoices, we can print those. I'll just do this one individually. You will now have an invoice off of this particular order that we put in, and very similar to the estimate. But there's your invoice, and again, we can email this directly to the customer. It creates it as a PDF document. Any prior payments that would have been applied, it would show those, and of course the balance due. Kind of jumping to the next piece would be more the reporting. Sirius is equipped with several hundred reports, actually. There's quite a few there. The reporting and the menus go anywhere from financial, work in progress, built reports. So if you don't like the electronic portion of the dashboard, you don't have to do that. You can print the version of it. Same thing, it's just print it. Your general sales reports that you would need to see. You maybe want to run all your sales by a certain industry or postal code or a certain product. Just general sales reports, commission reports. Again, quite a few reports in here. The one that Justin was referring to was the financial summary, and just kind of demonstrate that here quickly. Is really just an analysis of the entire database of everything that's going in. So it'll show you your current ARs, it'll show you what's current in WIP, what's in built, all of your income broken out by the certain income categories, what you produced in design, what was digital printed, what was installed, what was shipped, how much did you outsource, again, all based on the time frame of the report. You'll get that additional analysis for new orders placed, orders closed, any sales tax payable there, as well as your payments received within that time frame. So a very handy report and a very heavily used report as well. All right, Justin, anything else you think I should cover or give a sneak peek to the group here?
Let's see. I mean, and you pretty much covered what we discussed, or what I discussed. That sounds good to me. Okay. All right. Well, Kristen, we want to open it up for a little Q&A.
Yes, let's go for it. I've unmuted everyone, so please, if you have questions for Dean or Justin, go for it. Don't be shy.
I can go first then.
Great.
This is John Hoffman from A to Z Signs in California.
Hey, John.
I was a little late getting in. I didn't get an email, so I had to jump through some hoops to get in, so I missed Justin's first portion. And as I gather, you may have at least several of my colleagues online who are currently activity users and a little bit frustrated. The biggest question I have to Justin is, and maybe this was answered, how much time was consumed in the conversion from activity to Sirius?
It was a pretty substantial conversion for us. It took a while, but I did touch on that. One of the main reasons it took me so long was because in the transition from activity to Sirius, I tried to also transition us from area-based pricing to cost-based pricing. And not to really get into too much detail, if you've been using area-based pricing, which that's what we had been on since we had opened, switching to cost-based pricing is a completely different animal. Now, for outsourced stuff, we do use cost-based pricing, and we kind of stick with that. But trying to price a digital print with cost-based pricing, once you've been used to $8 a square foot or something like that for area-based pricing, it was just overwhelming, because what we were finding was the smaller jobs were way too expensive, and then the larger jobs we were just losing all the all the margin on. So it really, and we could not come to we couldn't find that sweet spot where we felt like it needed to be, and so it literally took me 2 months to figure that out, because I would do it in my spare time. I did go through and add all of the prices in for all of my substrates, all of my vinyls, and that took a good bit of time doing that. But then the bulk of the time though was spent trying to compare my pricing from activity to what I was trying to get the cost-based pricing in Sirius to show up as. And so what I told everyone in the beginning was, if you've been using area-based pricing, don't try to switch to cost-based pricing. That was the biggest mistake I made. Which so if I had to start over again and I started from scratch, I would say you could definitely do it in the while still doing the stuff that you typically do in a day. You could probably make the conversion in a couple weeks, in a few weeks. But or if you were willing to just sit down for an entire week and shut it all down and do it, you could do it in a week. But it's definitely it's pretty intense. Just from getting all your pricing entered in. But again, I guess it just depends on how much you want to track. So if you don't really care about what your costs are, then I don't think you have to go through that drill. It already has, it pre-enters some pricing in, and so really what you need to do is just make sure it's kind of close to what you are paying now, and then you can just use it as is.
Justin, let me ask a couple questions, and I think this may help clarify John's question. When you first got Sirius and we installed it on your system, did you go through the setup procedure of setting up your products and your pricing prior to us converting into that data set? Or did we convert the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So I did do a bunch of back-end stuff before we ever went live. So yeah, is that what you're asking me?
Right. So you got the software, you got it installed, you started going in, setting up your basic information, and then we converted your activity data into that data set that you begun to set up previously.
Yeah, that's right. So it wasn't like I was down for 2 months or whatever without a point-of-sale system. We used activity while I was working on Sirius, trying to get it ready to go. And so, from when we actually went live with it, when I had my pricing to where I felt comfortable with it, it basically was over the weekend. I let them know, hey, we're going to convert. So what they did was on a Friday, he got on my system. He converted our database over, and apparently, I guess because there's a lot of data, they have to go through and make some tweaks to format it correctly. It took them a weekend to do that, but then when we came in on Monday, we were ready to go live with Sirius. So the back-end stuff is stuff that can be done prior to the actual conversion.
Right, and I wanted to make that point, so thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah,
what we do. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's why I asked the question. I think it's important for everyone to know is there will be no downtime and no duplicate entry of data. We'll go through the setup of the product prior to the conversion, so you will run activity until you're ready to go live. Then we take that data and convert it into your new product and pricing data set when you're ready. I want to clarify one other thing too, just so we're all on the same page and we understand the terminology that we're using here. There's two types of pricing methods that you could use. There's actually three, and I'll explain the three, and we don't recommend one at all. The three are area-based pricing, and what we mean by area-based pricing is square foot pricing. So you're going to charge so much per square foot. And then you have little add-ons that you may add to it, like if you do grommets or you do hemming or you add trim cap. Those little things are generally a cost per linear inch or per piece, that sort of thing. But generally, area-based pricing is square foot pricing. And then there's cost-based pricing, and cost-based pricing is really bill of materials times markup, or times multiplier, if you will, which is becoming, I think, more common in the industry. But I think Justin is right. Don't make the switch. Now, we offer both. And before I go off, and I'm going to show you in the screen here why we offer both and how that's set up. But the third option is table-based pricing, which I think probably quite a few of you are familiar with. Table-based pricing is, okay, I have kind of material across the top, I have quantity down the side, and then maybe if it's a three-dimensional table, I have area as well. So it then does a lookup. Okay, how many does the customer want? What's that area? What material is it on? Poof, there's your price. And again, we don't recommend that one. We do offer it, but we don't recommend it or use it per se. So let's take a look at this product we put in. Excuse me 1 second here. Let me edit this. One thing you may have noticed as I was going through the demo, it's using a cost-based model for pricing. And that cost-based model is the screen that we looked at on the Parts tab here, which is the equipment, the labor, and the material. And what it does is really simple. It says, okay, what are your costs for these individual items? What do you want to mark each one of these up with a multiplier? And then it comes out with a sale price. Now the other option, which is much easier to set up, much simpler to set up and quicker, is area-based, which is square foot, which is basically saying, hey, we're going to charge X dollars per square foot for this project. So when we print on vinyl and apply it to Coro, we charge $10.50 a square. When we print on vinyl and apply it to aluminum, 040, we charge $16.50 a square. And it does the lookup that way. And that's what Justin was referring to, that it's a lot quicker and easier to get set up that route. But we offer both, and we support both. It's just a matter of which one makes the most sense for you, and how much time you want to spend in configuring your cost-based pricing.
Yeah, if I may say something real quick.
Sure.
So you can see why the cost base is very appealing because it's a tighter track of actual, hey, this is what it's cost me, this is what I'm going to charge. But there's a lot of back end that has to go into getting your cost base right. Like you have to time your machines to know how long it takes to produce a print. You have to know what your hourly rate is, for the shop to be open, and so there's a lot of labor factors you have to figure out. There's a lot of machine factors, and I wasn't, it wore me out trying to make all those calculations, and so that's why I eventually went back to the area based, because it was definitely overwhelming because we hadn't come from that. So that's why we went back to the area based.
Right, and my experience and our startup department's experience is someone is used to a cost-based model, and with activity you may not be, but someone that is used to opening up Excel, throwing in their materials, throwing in their labor, estimated labor and their estimated equipment usage, some overhead rates, and then basically applying the multiplier to that, they'll adjust to that cost-based model very, very easily. If you're used to the square foot model, the area-based model, you will adapt to that much easier. But it's we have the support structure, we have the data and the team here to help you and determine which one's best. Now, the key thing, and Justin mentioned this early on, is you can use area-based pricing and still see what your costs are. And you don't have to set up everything, but it's probably key that you do. But we can still look at, even though we're doing an area-based model, we can see that we're at an 83% margin. So it still understands what your costs are. It just has nothing. It doesn't care if you go below or over any particular margin. It's just going to show you what that margin would be, based on the data that you fed it. You're just charging $20 a square foot, and it doesn't care if you're at a 3% margin or a 60% margin. It's just going to display that number for you.
Okay.
And hopefully I clarified that correctly. And John, hopefully we answered your question.
No, I understand that. I'd like to discuss the conversion a little bit more thoroughly, just so I understand, and I understand the process. When you're doing a conversion, are you carrying existing pricing out of activity, or are you just strictly taking database information from customers?
The underlying data that activity uses in the platform versus what we use is really two different structures altogether. So the short answer is we do convert all the products, we do convert the pricing, but it may not come out to the exact calculations. The reason we convert it is the reason that Justin mentioned earlier, and I apologize, John, you're right, you weren't there, is so you have a historical reference of that data. So we have to convert the products, we have to convert the pricing, and when we convert that, it saves, it'll bring it in as an estimate, or it'll bring it in as an order, and it has the correct totals associated with the product. But you don't necessarily want to use those converted products going forward because there could be some discrepancies.
Right. Well, and the problem with activity is it doesn't forget anything. And when you have history and you start to want to change things, sometimes there's difficulty in doing that, because if you add different parameters going forward, it doesn't let go of the old parameters, so you start seeing things you don't want to see anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so the concern I have in listening here is when we bring activity things in, and they may be things that we don't want to see anymore, because part of the reason why we're moving would be potentially to get away from that kind of scenario. How do we make those go away in your system? Are we going to be looking at material items, as an example, that are no longer useful in the new system, but we can't get rid of them because they came as part of the history of activity? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great summary of basically what will happen. You can't get rid of them. If we convert them, you can't get rid of them. However, we set those, per se, you can set them in active. So they really won't be there, or they'll be embedded within a product tree. And again, they're really just converted for reference points, not necessarily for you to use. So yes, they will convert. Yes, that data will be there, but it will be with underneath a subcategory, or we can put those under a subcategory that you wouldn't see visually on the screen anyway. I mean, you would literally have to dig for them, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
Now, the other option, and which this does happen from time to time, I mean, actually probably quite a bit, is we just don't convert the activity data, period. Just don't convert it. You start out fresh with Sirius. All
you don't convert the customers or anything?
No, sir. Yeah, let me clarify. Yeah, we would convert the customers. We would convert the customers. We would convert the contacts and all the details, but we wouldn't convert any of their order history, right, or their estimate history, or any of the products. You would just start out fresh with Sirius, and if you needed to refer to that historical estimate or order, you could do that within activity. I have also seen other cases, John, where we can archive. So we could basically convert the data, archive up to the past 2 years, and only keep the data that's associated with those 2 years of estimates and orders, which would include the products. So there's some things we could do there as well.
Am I hearing correctly that you have a pricing database built into the system? If I were not using any system and I just bought you as a fresh system, I can open my doors and have a functioning system?
Let's not word it that way. Because that would be misleading. Sirius comes with an out-of-the-box data set that already has products, and let me just click OK here if you're still looking at the screen.
Sure.
And we'll take a look at those. This is that starting data set that will come with it. And everything that I demoed to you, and we'll take a look at that screen here in a few moments, but from design to cut vinyl to digital print, dimensional, which is dimensional letters, engraving, sandblasting, electrical, channel letters, sign cabinets, reprographics, photography. Yes, all of this comes with it. And when you open up one of the products within those categories, you're going to get a list of options there, like a list of printers you see here, or a list of Coro options that you see here. Or if we go to the aluminum category, you'll see a list of all the aluminum, from Aluminite to Dibond and so on. Yes, all of this data comes with it, and it does have, if you will, national-based average, costing, as well as multipliers associated with them. Now, I want to be clear, though, that it's not going to match you exactly. What Justin charges for our product, you may charge different. You may have a higher markup. You may have a lower markup. And it doesn't have every material in the database. So that's why Justin mentioned it's still a pretty extensive process to go through. Look at the ones we have there. You can just adjust the cost. You may want to rename it a little bit to match your naming convention, and you'll add the ones that are missing. So to say that you can take this data set, install it, start pricing right away, if it's something simple like cut vinyl, just an intermediate vinyl applied to a sheet of 18 to 24 Coro, yes, you could. But reality is when you start looking at digital printing, the different medias, is it RCal, is it 3M, is it Avery, you're going to have to add those options in that you print on, and that your laminate options, your mounting options, and so forth. That help clarify the question, John?
Yes, because in our case, I sort of feel as though we have a broken system. And my concern is importing my broken system into a new system. And I have to analyze whether it makes more sense to start with a, for lack of a better word, a vanilla database, and build from that rather than trying to determine what I want to get out of the system as I convert it over. Mm-hmm. Once it's converted over, what I want to get rid of that now seems not useful. I've been on Activity for 15 plus years, so we have, frankly, a lot of crap in it, and it's very frustrating. And our looking now to convert, whether it's to Sirius or something else, is almost in a sense of starting over, which is probably much different than some other people out there that are maybe much younger and don't have, or either have taken better care of their databases than I have, or haven't had the experience of 20 years of business and the changing of the industry that's left us with many things that are not useful today.
Mm-hmm. John, the way it came in for us was, Dean, if you could go back to the screen that shows the different products, like on the just one page back. Mm-hmm. So the way it came in for us, like if you could imagine just another folder at the very top that just says, I can't remember if it says Activity POS or something like that, but there's just a folder at the top that says, that's basically all of our old Activity products. So when you open that Activity folder up, it displays all of the old products that Activity had in it. So basically it's all condensed down into one folder, and you can still go in there and you can select, whatever product you used to use in Activity, you could still select it. It does bring it in on a different looking pricing sheet than what the new estimates you would create in Sirius look like. But if you absolutely needed to, you could go into your old Activity database and you could actually create an estimate. You'd have to manually enter in prices for it. But if you like the name of something that you had in there and you just didn't want to fiddle with making a new one, you could access the old information and create an estimate using an Activity line item and just manually plug in your pricing for it. But from what we've kind of figured out, it doesn't really import in all the pricing that we used to use. So that's what we use all the new Sirius for. But there is just like that one clean folder that has all of your Activity stuff housed in it.
I see. So in your case, when you made the full conversion, you were not really using archived information out of Activity. You chose to use, in essence, what's on the left side now. You built all those things up, and then you just had Activity there. If you needed to go back and look at something, you essentially just had sort of your history in the same program without having to keep Activity alive to go back and look for it.
Yeah, so it's nice because you have it there if you need it, but what you can do is actually, like for example, you see where it says billboard lease. We don't do any billboard leasing. So when you go into setting up your products, you can make billboard lease inactive, so that doesn't show up there. So you don't have to fool with that folder that you're not going to use. You can make that an inactive item, and then it just doesn't show up. So you can kind of fine-tune it to just the stuff you use. Like if you're not doing any repro graphics, you can eliminate that folder from view. It's still there, but you can just make it inactive so that your estimators aren't seeing that and clicking on it and using something from that folder since you don't do it.
I've had that issue where things get put in the wrong places because poor training.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's helpful to me. If Sirius could just review quickly for me, because I've forgotten in the past contacts I've had, the invoice breakpoints for price changing, at what invoice amounts that the prices change, and what happens if you exceed that, but you don't necessarily exceed that on a consistent basis. How does that work?
Are you talking about the purchase of Sirius?
The purchase of Sirius.
I don't have any pricing, John. Can we get back with you on that?
Well, I'm not talking about dollars. I'm talking about the breakpoints.
Oh, excuse me, from the silver, the gold, and the platinum.
Right, and let's throw a hypothetical. Let's just say in 1 month I wrote 100 invoices, but the next month I wrote 25, and the next month I wrote 30, and the next month I wrote 50. I know that these invoice thresholds trigger, I guess for lack of a better word, these different pricing levels, and what I don't understand is if it's only an occasional thing, does it trigger it forever, or is there some methodology in that?
Yeah, there's no methodology. It works on a calendared month, from Jan 1 to Jan 31, and if you look at here's the breakout, and basically it's levels, what we call silver, gold, and platinum. Silver is 75, gold is 150, and platinum is unlimited. And that's only in reference to invoices or orders, transactions, not estimates. You can do as many estimates as you like. And the question is, what if you do 75 1 month and then the next month you need to do 100? Well, it won't let you. That's the short answer. It starts notifying you when you get down to 10 left, that you have 10 left, you have 9 left, and then it won't let you create any more orders for that month. You would have to wait till the next month. So what you would do if you were if you're running upon that limitation, you should upgrade to the next level, which would be the gold in this example. You would upgrade from the 75 to 150. And then it's just 150 every month. So it's not like we just activate it for 1 month. You turn it, it's either on or it's off.
Okay. And it's basically double. Once you hit the 75 threshold, it's double.
Correct. You then go to 150, and then the next one's platinum, and it's unlimited. There's no restrictions on it whatsoever.
I see. Okay. I just wanted to be real clear on exactly how that functions.
Sure.
I think that's all I've got. I apologize. I don't mean to be.
Great questions. Thanks. No, great questions. Thanks for asking. It's, anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, this is Bill. I had a question. What can't be transferred over from activity into Sirius?
Justin may have a better sense of that, but we pretty much convert almost everything. What's going to happen is you're going to, when you get Sirius first, you're going to basically get a blank data set, so to speak, as far as no company information, no employees, and you're going to go through and you're going to set up and structure all of that within Sirius. Is that correct, Justin?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. We didn't really have any trouble with anything not converting over. When we made the conversion, we knew we weren't looking back. But we still do have the ability to pull an old invoice from 2 years ago to see what we did charge, and then we kind of recreate it that way.
When you pull it over from, like you say, 2 years ago, are you pulling that over in Sirius or in activity?
No, it's in Sirius. Like I have an open activity since we've switched over.
Okay, so then you can take an old activity invoice and reorder it?
I haven't done it in so long. I don't.
You can. The reason for the conversion bill is really there just for a historical purpose, so you don't have to use activity. So we convert all of the the customers, the contacts, their orders, their estimates, and when you do the conversion, you can go into what we call an Explorer window and look up company ABC and get a list of all of their prior estimates, their prior orders. You can open them up. You can get the pricing details, description, and so forth. but we really convert that just for a reference point.
So
and
you can't do just an automatic reorder.
You
Yeah,
could.
I actually, I just did it. I just pulled it up just to see what it would do. I looked up one from several years ago, and actually it pulls right up, shows me any description I put in there. It shows what it was. It's kind of a little funny, like with the height and width, because it's a strange. It's not quite the same as the serious estimate looks. It's a little different. But I actually pulled up an old order and clicked clone, and yes, you can clone it, and you can use it if you want to. So you can literally pull up an old invoice, clone it, and reuse it. But it's hard to explain without showing you. But the data is a little different. But if you wanted to give someone the exact same pricing you did previously, you can do that. Like you can open up an old invoice, clone it, and reuse it now.
Okay.
Yeah, and the answer to your question, Bill, is yes, you can, but you're really not going to want to, once if you want it to be kind of the same job that they're just reordering, if there's any, significant changes in pricing and so forth, then you're probably going to want to rebuild that out in the new products that you built within Sirius. That help answer the question?
The new cloned invoice would not have any kind of pricing data or cost data. So if you wanted to see what your costs were, it's not going to show you any of that cost data. It's going to simply pull up the old invoice, show what you previously charged, and it will show you as much data as possible. But some of the stuff, like I said, doesn't quite convert over. As far as square footage and stuff, that comes in. But I think it like caps it at 100 inches. For whatever reason, if you manually type in a height and a width, it will only let you go up to 100 inches. But regardless, the area-based pricing isn't. You can't plug in a height and a width and get an area-based price to spit out from an old activity invoice. It will bring in whatever that old invoice was, what the price was at, if that makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Now, your area-based pricing, can you put breaks, like there's a certain amount of dollar per square foot up to 10 square feet, and then a different one from 10 to 20?
Yes, sir. You can either do it based on quantity or do it based on area, or you could do it on both.
Well, what I meant is, can I put in different prices for the different square foot in the same?
Yes.
Okay. And activity has switched to an SQL database. Would that create any problem switching over?
No.
Okay.
None that we're aware of. And just so for you guys that are wondering, we've converted north of 600 activity users to date. We have a tool that we designed and developed to do this conversion. So we haven't run into any significant issues converting any data in the last, I can't tell you how many years, or any problems with an install with an existing activity user.
Okay.
Bill, go back to your question on the square foot breaks, so I make sure I understood it. I said yes, and then as I was thinking about it as you were talking there, I want to make sure I answered that correctly. You provide you provide discounts based on, or different. You charge a different square foot based on a certain amount that they order. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, we do that. We do that through what we call a discount table, which ultimately gives you the same thing. So let's just say you charge $5 a square foot, up to 32 square feet, and then you drop down to $4 a square foot between 33 and 64 square feet.
Right.
We set that up, but we do it in a discount. So we would take, what is the discount to get to that $4? So it's, I'm making this up.
As long as you can do it.
Yeah, it's 12.2% or something of that nature. So yes, that's how it would be set up and structured.
How many?
I don't suppose you know Greg Owen, do you?
I do know Greg Owen very well, and his son.
Okay. If I wanted to use his pricing, is there, and he agreed to it, there's no problem bringing that in?
I don't recommend that at all.
Okay.
I'm not saying we couldn't entertain it and look at it again, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay. Yes, that's all I have.
Okay. All right. I think Kim, was that you, Kim, was going to ask a question?
Oh, yeah. How many Casper users have you converted
Great question. Not near as many as activity. You know, how many, I'm not sure, but we don't have a conversion tool for Casper, so we can't convert historical estimates and orders. We would only convert the customers and the contacts, assuming that you can get the customer and contact data out of the Casper version that you're using. There was a couple versions that they had that would lock that feature and would not allow you to export it, and I don't recall which ones they were. It's been quite a while.
Okay.
I think it was in one of their earlier versions that they had. So it's something you would want to look into. Is that what you're using?
We're on Casper.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? And Bill, if you want to explore the Greg Owen question, I'm more than happy to have some discussions internally here to see if that makes sense. If that's the route you want it to go.
Okay, appreciate it. You're
welcome. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining. Justin, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your experience there. It's always nice for people curious about coming this direction to see the real world example, right?
Yeah. And any of y'all, if y'all want to email me or call me if y'all have any other questions that you think of. I mean, we've been pleased with the switch. I mean, I would do it again. It wasn't an inexpensive switch, but I certainly feel like it was worth it because we were frustrated with some of the limitations with activity, and I would definitely do it again. So,
Justin, do you want to give everyone just a quick update on the support end from the how we helped you in the setup and any support issues if you call in, have any questions, that sort of thing?
Yeah, actually, support's been really good. Don't get me wrong, it's a very complex system, so that means there are definitely going to be some questions that you have. So a lot of the back end stuff, when there's a database question that I have where I can't figure out how to do something, you shoot them an email to support@sirius.com, and pretty much my experience has been within an hour you're going to get a phone call from somebody trying to help you with they just hop on your computer, they log into it, and access your database that way, and they're able to fix the problems. And yeah, I mean, they've been very responsive with any kind of questions we've come across. So.
Okay, thank you.
And the startup department, I mean, I don't remember if it's the first 3 months or whatever, but the startup department is even more responsive than the normal support, which has been responsive. So, yeah, it was good.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thanks everyone. And as Kristen mentioned early on, we did record this, and we'll put this up somewhere if anyone wants to come back and listen through it or had any questions. And Kristen, I think is there anything left that I need to give you controls back, or you take the controls and just touch on quickly, or?
Yes, I think I've taken controls back. Real quick, wanted to show the contact information for us. If you wanted a little bit more of a personal demo, kind of dig into some of the different features, certainly call or email us. And if you just want to poke around for some more information, visit our website at sirius.com. And we have an entire library of videos featuring Control, some other customer experiences. So I'd really encourage you to check out our YouTube channel, which is Sirius Control. And it might help to give you some more insight into Control.
Okay. Very good.
And
all right.
Everyone that attended, thank you all, and look forward to hearing from you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.